It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
The fact of the matter is, it's a 50-50 only becomes a 50-50 by itself. If you have another thing chaining to that thing, it's a jungle gym, or now it's just a chaining tile to another pallet. The strength of the pallets themselves are not the issue. It's the number of them that's the issue. And I think that's what people are not understanding when they make a bold claim like that. It's just simply not the case.
And I made a video recently talking about the pallet changes and how it extremely nerfs M1 killers, especially older killers like Ghostface, who, for example, wow, he's one of my mains, so I am a little biased. I don't think he's horrible, but his whole reveal hitbox, that is pretty bad. Survivors can straight up reveal him from behind multiple obstacles while crouched. But
as the Ghostface main, you know, speaking here, the definitive Ghostface of DVD and the entire universe, speaking here, understands specifically that this is 100% facts. No, but it's 100% factual. I mean, the reveal mechanic is one of his biggest weaknesses. His map traversal is definitely his biggest weakness, and his lack of chaseability is what makes him completely dog doo-doo tier in everybody's tier list. I think considered, if you were to, depending on your tier list, if you're using from S to D tier, then he's D tier. But if you're talking about like all the way from like S to all the way to like F tier, then he's like, it's still in D tier. Skull Merchant and Trapper would be like, I think, completely F tier. I think, or just, I might be just Trapper D tier and then like Skull Merchant F tier. So depending on how you want to scale it, either or, he still remains within the lowest possible tiers of the game. So I don't even think you need to play Ghostface to understand that. I mean, you could put him next to any other killer that has anything in their kit besides the fact that they can go undetectable or something, but that's turned off because they have eyesight, compared to characters that can teleport, throw things at people, shoot projectiles, vault over things quickly. I mean, you name it, like they have something for it. Movement speed, like Wraith does what Ghostface does a little bit better than he does, because he can walk quickly and not lose his power. So he can make it across the map a lot faster than Ghostface can. So, and he does have a built-in like coup de grace feature that not many people really remember or use. I guess they're not aware of it. So the other characters even just do what Ghostface does better. So, you know, it goes without saying. You don't, like, I would have to say, you don't even have to even think you're biased by saying that, because everybody who says it, it's a well-known fact. Even as somebody like myself, who has been maining Ghostface for as long as I have been, can tell you, SK can tell you, Shrouded Ghostface can tell you, this character's low tier. Like, it goes without saying.
that's neither here nor there. Killers like Trapper, Hag, Doctor, heck, even killers like Legion, they all suffer from this tremendously. And it's so bad to the point where I literally took a break from DVD for an entire week. An entire week. I was playing Black Ops 3 Zombies in my off time. I was playing a little bit of Alien Isolation.
I'm gonna be honest, I thought he was gonna say like a month or a year or something, but bro said a week. I was like, all right, that's not as bad. I've heard people just completely stop playing for months. I've heard people say that they haven't played for a year. I've like limited my time on the game for quite a while, until recently, where I just, for some reason, just like when I started collecting data from my spreadsheet, to understand what my win rate was at, understand my kill rate, understand my markdowns and all that kind of stuff. For some reason, it kind of motivates me to play again, so I've been kind of going with that, and I still can't explain why it happened. I don't understand, like, in terms of like why it motivated me to keep playing, but it has been, and I find that despite the fact that the game is not in a great state, I think as a competitive player, Like I would say, like in terms of how I like to play, I should say I'm not like, I don't mean like tournament competitive. I mean like as a competitive person playing the game. I would say that it is nice to be challenged in some aspects. However, the pallets are a little bit too much, because at that point it really doesn't turn the game into something where I can say, hey, they made the right play. It's just they ran, pressed one button, ran again, then press another button, and then ran and then press another button, and I'm like, okay, but I'm not really like engaging with the game here.
My brother came over, we played some Black Ops Zombies. It was a great time. I am a killer main primarily, that's why I'm bringing all this stuff up, but man, I came back to DBD. When you're watching this now, it'll be Monday, but I'm recording this on Friday of October, I believe 10th. Yes. So you'll be seeing this Monday, but I'm recording on October 10th, Friday. And I'm telling you, man, this game, it's not, it doesn't make me angry playing it, but it gets me on the verge of being angry, and I hate that feeling so much. I dropped the game entirely for a whole week, and that was one of the best weeks I've had in a long time, just not playing this game. That's how bad it's gotten. But anyway, moving on to Survivors. Survivors solo queue, that's what I want to specify on, is, in my opinion, even worse than playing as a killer against a Swift or just survivors who, you know, actually use their eyes and brain and throw down pallets, right? Oh my goodness, solo queue Survivor is horrible because most of the killers you go against are running meta perks, right? And for good reason, because they feel the need, they have to. Killers, they like to win, you know?
This topic right here is something that I've covered very, very heavily before. The cycle that is within the game right now is essentially, you either start with killer or survivor, right? Let's start with survivor this time. So survivor will start with, okay, I'm going to use this build today. I'm going to use whatever nonsensical goofball build I feel like using today. You go in, you load into lobbies, you end up getting steamrolled by a blight running, you know, slowdown or whatever have you, or some kind of wraith running something, you know, essentially. You go against a killer, you have a rough time, your teammates are terrible, not doing gens. Then you run sweaty stuff. And then what ends up happening is, you know, to combat the sweatiness you just went up against, and then you end up going against another killer who is, I guess, I don't know, I think it depends. Anyway, in this example, we're gonna say survivor brings goofball build, encounters like a sweaty tough match that involves competitiveness even though they want to play casually, blah blah blah. Then they decide to put on sweaty stuff to try to combat the sweat that's going on from the previous match, but then they also go against another killer who's trying to play casually, so then that killer ends up having to bring something sweaty or changes to something just as sweaty to combat the sweatiness that they just went up against. And then they end up facing a survivor who's running like a goofball build, and then that creates the endless cycle of sweat. Idea that I think is happening is like we're in this like sort of cycle where and it's a sort of, if you ask me, I think it's like a chicken or the egg situation where we don't really know exactly where it started, or at least can factually pinpoint that this is where it starts. But we can understand that like if every match that somebody's going up against is being affected by their negativity bias, wants to bring stuff to combat against it, and then ends up affecting those people that they encounter, because then they feel like, well, now I'm experiencing, you know, the same, you know, sweaty, gen rushy, whatever nonsense I'm up against this time, and then I have to bring something to compensate for it. And then it just ends up in this like endless cycle. And I think that's what's causing a lot of issues within the game. Now, I've spoken extensively as how you could really fix this game. Like, one of the biggest things in this game, I would have to say, is at its core, the efficiency of the generators. Because when healing already is getting buffed by Sloppy getting nerfed, which is like hemorrhage and mangled in general, getting nerfed into the ground, topped with the fact that healing has increased exponentially. Exhaustion perks have gotten only buffed by ghost notes, and also vigil just getting a flat 66% now, when it really didn't need. And then top it off, you have exhaustion perks plus healing speeds are fast, plus chases take longer because of the pallet density, which then leads to, okay, well, now we're having to only play S tier at this point, because people aren't always trying to be playing at a competitive level, or at least trying to be super competent with their character enough to feel like competing is how you test your ability. In other words, not every person wants to sweat, and it kind of like, to me, the core of it is the objectives are ridiculously fast, right? So then, right, you'll have players that don't bring S tiers who then get steamrolled and then switch to S tier, or you end up having the killers like the S tiers or something like that, bringing like quad slowdown, and then both ways it affects the survivors, right? Because they'll teabag and berate the low tier killer that they faced last match, face nurse and all these other slowdowns and all these other things, and then still complain. And it's like, you just faced a guy who went off meta trapper with no slowdowns, completely steamrolled him out the match, like gen rushed him like crazy, didn't even interact with the killer at all in the entire match, berate him in the EGC, teabag him at the exit gate, and then now you're gonna end up facing even more blights and more nurses and more Kennekeys and all this other stuff, which leads back to them just facing what they supposedly don't like. So it's like, it's interesting to me, like, conceptually, because it's like they complain about the thing that they don't like, but then they end up getting more of the thing they don't like by complaining about the first thing they don't like. It's like, you're just only adding to the situation. Let alone the fact that killers having to use strategies like tunneling, camping, and slugging to even have a fighting chance, especially with a lower tier, is just absolutely ridiculous.
Same as survivors, and because of that, they always run meta perks. And in a video I made similarly a couple months ago, a video that absolutely blew up my channel, I talked about this same problem, the same dilemma. The fact that killers and survivors, more so killers, but that's because there's only one killer as opposed to there being 4 survivors. Killers cannot differentiate from the meta, because if they do, they are immediately put at a severe disadvantage and lose almost all the time. Survivors, on the other hand, they can mix and match perks and they can run fun builds. But the problem is, especially if you're solo queue, these fun builds, they almost never work, because the majority of the time when you're playing solo queue, the teammates you get put with do basically everything but generators.
I completely agree with WhyFight on this point, and I think this is something that, like I've stated before, I think it creates this endless cycle that we've seen, because people want to enjoy the game at a casual level, so they'll end up swifting, but then swifts are very, very, very strong against killers in general, so then it makes it even harder for the killers to play. And then, of course, it ends up leading to people who are playing killer to just kind of choose what the most optimal option would end up being, which then makes them complain, which leads to more nerfs, and then it kind of boils back down to, well, back to the S tiers now, which makes them complain again. So, pallet density update, perfect example of that. Like, you might have seen a lot more of the lower tiers, but because now the pallet density is so crazy, why would they ever pick them now? Because they have to work like triple to quadruple as hard just to do something that another killer could do way faster, way more efficient, and easier. So it's like, it's an endless cycle. right? And yeah, no, that's really the thing, I think, when it comes down to this sort of issue, because touching back onto what WhyFight was saying, Killer really is kind of locked in when it comes down to having to run your slowdown at least one, or not even just one, my bad. You need like at least 2 minimum, which cuts down on 2 of your perk slots. And then a third one might have to be a third slowdown, or maybe a chase perk, or whatever the heck you're bringing, depending on your killer. And then the fourth one is probably going to have to either be a chase option or another slowdown. Because if you bring anything that's not that, you're just going to run out of options and get steamrolled anyway. And that, I think, is for the vast majority of killer players. Because like I've said, I don't imagine that the vast majority of killer players are like super optimal with their main, or really understand like what perks are the best for their killers and stuff like that. I just don't think that that's a common thing. And I don't imagine that the vast majority of killer players are as competitive. Because I see that a lot. Like, I understand a lot of people get very stressed out with this game, myself included. Even as a competitive minded person when playing the game, I still look at it like, damn, that's a tough game. But like, I also realize that if I were to go against easier lobbies, I wouldn't even really be engaged, because it wouldn't be that satisfying to me knowing that they really aren't as experienced as they could have been, therefore providing a challenge. But obviously that probably changes between people. Maybe if you're interested in just more casual fun lobbies, it's okay to lose a couple of games, get your MMR lowered so that you can actually just face people without having to really use your brain. That is a possibility, and that's what you can choose to do. That is a perfectly okay option. But obviously, I know that there's probably some people that don't want to do that. But that is one of the solutions that is available to us, if you wanted to do that. Now, obviously, with the solo queue problem, like I've stated before as well, it's really hard to say there really is an easy way to kind of fix that problem, because obviously, it boils down to who you queue with, and a lot of you really can't control your teammates. Like, they're just most likely unaware of what's going on. They're most likely just kind of have like music playing, and they're like looking at the sky or something like that, not really worrying about anything in the match at all. So that I really don't know what would be a good solution for that, because like that boils down to that, like, your teammates being skilled, and that's not something that we can guarantee or something that we can actually get them to do. So I really have no idea how to solve that. Especially because adding comms to the base game will completely ruin the entire balancing of the game out the wazoo. Like, I can guarantee that. Because not only has Behavior stated that they will never add it, but also Swift already has the highest escape rate out of all the survivor teams, right? We're talking about four survivors in a team have the highest escape rate at, I believe, 48%. And I believe that as it goes down, I think the lowest was like 40 or something. So statistically, the survivors are escaping pretty well, I would say. So I would imagine that if you added comms to that, which, mind you, by the way, there is a HUD feature, which I don't know why that isn't like acknowledged by a lot of survivor players. Like I've stated even recently, like I've pointed this out, like there is a HUD that shows you exactly what everybody's doing at all times. So, and it was shocking to me. I saw a clip the other day where a survivor was confused that their teammate had just got eliminated from the lobby, even though that the HUD shows you who has hooks. So I was shocked. I was like, there is no way that they're going around the map. They're not even chased. They're just running around the map and they don't know what's going on in the lobby. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, are we who are we updating this game, like the game for? Like, when we're already giving people every other change out under the sun to try to improve their experience, and they just choose not to use any of those tools. So that, I think, is like one of the biggest problems I have when it comes down to the balancing, right? Because mind you, we just added 1,000 pallets. We have a HUD that gives you all the information you need. Gen speeds are off the wazoo. Healing is through the roof now. Exhaustions have been buffed like crazy. They skyrocketed with ghost notes and vigil and lightweight and dramaturgy, or whatever you want to use, spring burst, whatever you want to use. And it's like, you would think, at least from my perspective, you would think that with each patch just being being directly catered to that survivor like favored patches, that survivors would be having a blast, because you go, yo, like, I got everything I need. I got exhaustions, and healing speeds are crazy, and gen speeds are so easy to do now. Like, you know, I don't know, right? Like, at least from my perspective, I just don't know, right? Solo queue sucks, yeah, I give it that though. Solo queue will always suck. I think, I don't think there's a way to solve that. But I do bring up that point, like, why isn't it like considered a great time for Survivor, which is weird to me, I would say, because of that. Because like they're DCing even more than ever, which I find really odd, because I'm like, all the patches are giving them a bonus. Like, they're giving them more and more things to make them invincible. Like, they even reverted off the record to have endurance now with 40 seconds instead of 80. So like, you got what you wanted, right? Like, that's what I'm like starting to wonder, like, why are we still complaining? And it could be the fact that killers have to be more strategic now, because of the fact that they need to tunnel somebody out now by 3 gens. Like, they need to get that done, because if not, you're getting 4 people running around the map all rushing the gens at the same time, and now you lose a lot more, and your chases are going to be a lot slower because of those pallets, and it's going to be a lot slower because exhaustions are buffed, and it's going to be a lot slower because they can heal really fast, so you have to then shoot through another health state. And okay, and then there's more endurances that they have now. It's like, okay, but yeah, that's my yap session for the day, I guess. I don't know, I feel like I kind of went a little bit on a tangent today. I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Original video will be linked in the description. Hit that subscribe button and consider becoming a member on YouTube or Patreon for exclusive content, and let me know your guys' thoughts. Follow on Twitch or TikTok, we have those. I'll see you guys in the next one, and stay tuned for all my members. Well, I wanted to go ahead and take some time out to thank all my members from Patreon with Crow King 101, my YouTube members, Majora Jeff, Endire, Evil Peachy YT, Zero Mocker, Christian, Hexdev, and Crow Vader. And for my Twitch subscribers, Cake is the Road, Danica 2002, Final Girl _ Bunny, Acklefin, Chili Cinderace, Zero Mocker, Ginsburg, Johns 117 _ Lovely Ghost TTV, Jar TTV, Zazabu, and Crow Vader. Just wanted to thank you guys. And if you also want to have your name read off at the end of every video, make sure you join on one of these platforms to get one of those perks, as well as the other perks you get. So appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much.